Today, we are diving into a massive, action-packed world where ruthless pirates rule the seas, and everyone is on a wild goose chase for a mythical treasure that could change their lives forever. But among all these dangerous criminals is a young boy whose body can literally stretch like rubber. His name is Monkey D. Luffy, and his biggest dream is to become the king of the pirates. Along with a loyal crew by his side, he sets off on a dangerous journey that will change not only his own fate, but the future of the entire world. But before we get to our stretchy hero, we have to rewind 22 years. In the port city of Logtown, a famous man named Gold D. Roger was about to face his final moments. Roger was known all over the world as the king of the pirates. After years of searching, Vice Admiral Garp of the Navy had finally managed to capture him. Even though Roger was considered a criminal, he had a massive legion of followers who admired him. Just before his execution, Roger stood in front of a huge crowd filled with both fans and haters. Instead of showing fear, he revealed a shocking secret. He announced that he had hidden his legendary treasure, known as the One Piece, somewhere on the treacherous Grand Line. He promised that whoever found it would gain fame, wealth, and power beyond imagination. After saying his final words, Roger was executed. His message changed the world forever, marking the beginning of the great age of pirates. Men and women from every corner of the world set sail with hope in their hearts, all dreaming of finding the One Piece. Fast forward to the present. Among these new pirates is Monkey D. Luffy. Ever since he was a little boy, he has dreamed of finding the One Piece. All he needs now is a strong crew and a ship. However, things are not going very well. His small boat is already sinking, and since he cannot swim, he is about to be swallowed by the sea. With no other choice, Luffy climbs inside a wooden barrel to save himself, and simply lets the waves carry him away. Because when your boat sinks and you can't swim, your best bet is to become a human cork. After drifting in the ocean, his barrel suddenly ends up in the middle of a naval battle between two pirate ships. The winning ship belongs to Captain Alvida, a feared pirate who has a bounty of 5 million berries on her head. After destroying the enemy vessel, Alvida proudly orders her crew to collect all the supply barrels floating in the water. One of those barrels is the one where Luffy is hiding. On Alvida's ship is a young cabin boy named Kobe. He hates pirates, especially Captain Alvida, but he has no choice except to obey her. If he refuses, she will simply throw him into the sea. That night, while working in the storage hold, Kobe suddenly hears strange noises. As he investigates, he discovers that someone is hiding inside one of the barrels. To his surprise, the person inside is Luffy. Without any fear, Luffy happily introduces himself and proudly says that he is going to become a pirate. He explains that once he gets a proper ship, he plans to sail to the Grand Line, a place so dangerous that many people call it the graveyard of ships. Kobe knows how cruel Alvida is, so before she wakes up, he tries to help Luffy escape. The two of them secretly head for one of the lifeboats, but just when they are about to leave, Luffy accidentally swings an oar, hits a bell, and wakes up the entire crew. Seeing this, Alvida believes that Kobe has betrayed her. Furious, she swings her giant club at him. But before the attack can hit, Luffy jumps in and protects Kobe. A huge fight breaks out as the pirates rush to stop him. During the battle, one of the crew members fires a gun at Luffy. But to everyone's shock, the bullet does nothing. Instead, his body stretches like rubber and bounces it right back. The pirates cannot believe what they are seeing. Thanks to his strange power, Luffy easily avoids all of Alvida's attacks. Then with one powerful punch, he sends the pirate captain flying right off the ship. Just like that, Kobe is finally free from the pirates who had controlled him for so long. Excited about his new adventure, he leaves with Luffy, and the two begin traveling together. While sailing, Kobe becomes curious about Luffy's strange powers and asks where they came from. Hearing this, Luffy decides to tell him about his childhood. Ever since he was a little boy, Luffy dreamed of joining the crew of the famous pirate Shanks and sailing across the seas with him. But Shanks always told him that he was still too young. Even so, Luffy kept trying to prove that he was ready. During one of these attempts, he accidentally injured himself and got a scar under his eye, a mark that would stay with him for the rest of his life. Later, after his wound had been treated, Luffy started looking through the treasures that Shanks and the crew had brought back. While searching, he found a strange-looking fruit inside a small box and ate it without knowing what it was. Soon after, a local bandit named Higuma and his gang burst into the bar, demanding drinks. The bartender informed them she was sold out. Shanks offered Higuma the last bottle, but Higuma smashed it over the counter. Shanks didn't take the bait and simply started cleaning up, causing Higuma to break even more things before leaving. Luffy called Shanks a coward for not fighting back. When Luffy tried to storm out, Shanks grabbed him by the arm. To everyone's shock, Luffy's arms stretched. Shanks instantly knew the boy had eaten a devil fruit, also known as an Akuma no Mai. It granted people a special power, but also made it impossible for them to swim. Later, Higuma and his gang returned and demanded their drinks. Luffy angrily confronted Higuma, causing the bandit to pick him up to punish him. In the chaos, Higuma escaped with Luffy on a boat. In the middle of the sea, a massive sea monster appeared, hit the boat, and ate Higuma. Luffy slowly sank into the sea, but Shanks arrived just in time and pulled him out. The monster tried to attack again, but Shanks stared at it with no fear, telling it to get lost. The monster actually left, but Luffy noticed Shanks had lost an arm. Shanks just smiled and said Luffy's safety was more important. Before Shanks left on his next journey, he gave Luffy his prized straw hat, telling him he could return it once he had become a great pirate. From that moment on, the hat became Luffy's most cherished possession. Back in the present, Luffy finishes his story and asks Kobe what he wants to do with his life. Kobe finally reveals that his biggest dream is to become a Navy officer so he can protect innocent people. Luffy becomes excited and decides to help his new friend. He changes his route and heads toward the nearest Navy base in Shell's Town. This way, Kobe can join the Marines, and at the same time, Luffy can steal a map that will lead him to the Grand Line. When they arrive at Shell's Town, the two decide to stop at a restaurant. Inside, they notice a green-haired swordsman named Roronoa Zoro. At that moment, a little girl named Rika walks over to him and gives him a plate of onigiri she made herself. But before Zoro can enjoy it, Helmeppo, the spoiled son of the Marine captain, accidentally drops the food. Instead of apologizing, he steps on it and starts threatening the little girl. Seeing this makes Zoro angry. Even after the food has been crushed, he calmly picks up a piece, eats it, and kindly tells Rika that her cooking is delicious. Then he orders Helmeppo to eat the food that he stepped on. Zoro is basically the patron saint of petty, but honorable revenge. Hearing this, Helmeppo loses his temper and attacks Zoro with his sword. But Zoro easily defeats him, without even drawing one of his own swords. When the Marines see Captain Morgan's son being attacked, they immediately rush at Zoro. But the green-haired swordsman defeats every single one of them with ease, once again without using his swords. Meanwhile, during all the confusion, a clever young thief named Nami sees an opportunity. She quietly attacks a Marine soldier and drags him into a hidden place so she can steal his uniform. Nami is out here playing dress-up and committing grand larceny, and she is great at both. After causing chaos, Zoro heads to meet Captain Morgan, the man in charge of the Navy base. Zoro works as a bounty hunter and has just killed a wanted assassin named Mr. Seven to collect the reward. Morgan is impressed by his fighting skills and agrees to pay him. However, he first punishes Zoro for attacking Marines. He tells him that he must spend 7 days tied up in the courtyard. If he refuses, he will never be allowed to work as a bounty hunter again. Having no choice, Zoro accepts the punishment. Helmeppo mocks him, but Zoro calmly warns him that once he is free, Helmeppo will be begging for his life. The next morning, Nami puts on the stolen Marine uniform and sneaks into the Navy base to steal the map of the Grand Line. At the same time, Luffy also enters the base using a sewer pipe. This path brings him to the courtyard, where Zoro is being punished. After realizing that this is the same swordsman who fought the Marines the previous night, Luffy immediately likes him. He unties Zoro and invites him to join his pirate crew. Zoro refuses, revealing he wants to become the world's greatest swordsman. Impressed, Luffy leaves to keep searching. Meanwhile, Nami is discovered inside the library. To avoid being arrested, she fights 2 Marines and knocks them out. After hiding their bodies, she suddenly hears someone crashing into the room. To her surprise, it is Luffy, falling out of a ceiling grate. Since both of them are intruders, they decide to work together. They sneak into Captain Morgan's office, but just then, Morgan himself appears. Thinking quickly, Nami tells him that she is escorting a pirate prisoner. Thanks to her quick lie, they manage to fool the captain, and she even steals the keys to his office. At the same time, Zoro goes after Helmeppo to get back his swords. But instead of killing him, he simply cuts off his hair, leaving the spoiled young man completely terrified. Back in Morgan's office, Luffy helps Nami search for the map. Unfortunately, the map is locked inside a heavy safe. Before they can figure out how to open it, Morgan realizes that someone has broken in and starts smashing the door with his axe hand. Without wasting any time, Luffy uses his rubber powers to rip the entire safe out of the floor. The sudden force launches him and Nami right out the window. As soon as they land, a group of Marines surrounds them. With no choice left, Luffy and Nami fight side by side. Just then, Zoro arrives. He has finally recovered his 3 swords, and as a way of thanking Luffy for setting him free, he decides to help. Captain Morgan arrives and proves to be incredibly strong. Zoro reveals his 3-sword style and uses it to pin Morgan's axe hand down. Taking advantage of the opening, Luffy launches a powerful stretched kick with his rubber leg and sends Morgan flying. At last, the cruel captain is defeated. After winning the battle, Zoro takes the safe and Nami steals a boat so they can escape. However, Helmeppo suddenly appears, angry that Zoro mangled his hair and points a gun at them. Before he can do anything, Kobe surprises everyone by punching him in the face and knocking him out. Then Kobe says goodbye to Luffy. He tells his friend that he wants to stay behind and join the Navy to achieve his dream. Luffy respects that, calls Kobe his friend, and the trio sets sail. Meanwhile, Vice Admiral Garp receives a call that the map has been stolen. That night, after spending hours trying to unlock the safe, Nami finally succeeds. Inside is the precious map that leads to the Grand Line. Everything seems perfect, but suddenly their ship is attacked. The enemy fires shots that spread a red gas around them. The gas causes the trio to start losing consciousness. Before passing out, Luffy quickly swallows the map to make sure no one can steal it. When they wake up, they discover that they are trapped inside a wooden crate. As soon as the crate is opened, they realize they have been taken to a strange circus. They soon learn that the audience watching the show is actually made up of innocent townspeople being held prisoner and forced to follow cue cards. Soon after, the owner of the circus appears. It is the pirate Buggy the Clown. He reveals that he has been searching for the Grand Line map for months. But now, thanks to these 3 youngsters, all the hard work has already been done for him. Since they refuse to tell him where the map is, Buggy separates them. Luffy is the first victim. In front of the trapped audience, Buggy ties up his arms and legs and plans to stretch him. But since Luffy is rubber, it does absolutely nothing. Buggy then threatens to put a child in the stretching device. Enraged, Luffy breaks free and punches Buggy so hard his head flies off. But Buggy doesn't die. He reveals he also ate a devil fruit, giving him the power to separate his body parts at will. He is literally a human jigsaw puzzle. Using his strange powers and a gas bomb, Buggy knocks Luffy unconscious and drops him into a glass tank that is slowly filling with seawater. Since devil fruit users lose all their strength in water, Luffy starts drowning. As he fades, he remembers Shanks sacrificing his arm for him. Back in the circus, Zoro is tied to a spinning wheel while Kabeji, one of Buggy's men, throws knives at him. Nami manages to pick her way out of her birdcage, attacks Kabeji, and allows Zoro to break his ropes. They retrieve their weapons and rush to save Luffy. Seeing their friend in danger, Nami smashes the glass tank with her staff. Luffy spits out the Grand Line map, but Buggy grabs his straw hat and pierces it with a knife. Luffy gets furious. He notices some empty treasure chests and tells his friends he has a plan. The trio works together, hitting Buggy's various floating body parts so they fly into the chests. Nami then slams the lids shut, preventing Buggy from reassembling himself. With Buggy packed away like action figures, Luffy stretches both his arms back and delivers a massive punch that sends the clown's remaining head flying out of the tent and off the island. The trio recovers the map, fixes Luffy's hat, and frees all the villagers. Later on the ship, Nami secretly uses a small device to call a mysterious person, telling them she has the map. But when Zoro accidentally breaks the floorboards thinking it's a toilet, seawater floods in and ruins her device. Nami informs them the closest place to get a better ship is the Gecko Islands. When they arrive at the Gecko Islands, they immediately go to the shipyard, where Luffy instantly falls in love with a huge ship. Suddenly, a young man named Usopp emerges. Usopp tells them about the ship, while a flashback reveals that since he was a kid, Usopp would ring a bell and run down the streets shouting that pirates are coming. Years ago, this caused panic, but eventually, the villagers realized he lied and stopped paying attention to him. Usopp is basically the boy who cried wolf. Usopp tells the trio that the ship isn't for sale, but the whole shipyard is owned by a friend of his, so he takes them to meet her. They arrive at a giant mansion, where servants Sham and Butchai tell them to leave. However, the owner, a sickly girl named Kaya, arrives with her butler Klahadore. Kaya is happy to see Usopp and invites everyone to stay for dinner to celebrate her 18th birthday. Later, Usopp goes to Kaya's room and gives her a birthday present, a rock he claims is a pearl. He also shares another tale of his adventures, which are all lies, but Kaya loves them. Meanwhile, Klahadore brings Kaya her tea, which he's made her drink since her parents died. Later, Klahadore checks the kitchen to make sure the workers remembered to put poison in Kaya's special blue soup. During dinner, the family lawyer, Mary, tries to warn Kaya about signing documents that would give the shipyard to Klahadore. But before she can respond, Kaya starts coughing hard, and Klahadore kicks everyone out. Later in the wine cellar, Mary accuses Klahadore of trying to take control of the estate. Klahadore denies it, then starts moving incredibly fast, surprising Mary from behind and stabbing him with a bladed glove. Meanwhile, Luffy is looking for a snack and bumps into Zoro. They go to the kitchen and find Usopp, who tells them about his father, a pirate who left when he was young. Usopp takes Zoro to the wine cellar to find a drink, while Luffy stays to eat all of Kaya's poisoned soup. Nami, meanwhile, is going around stealing valuable items, but accidentally ends up in Kaya's room. Kaya catches her but doesn't mind, and the two girls end up bonding. In the wine cellar, Zoro and Usopp find Mary's body. Klahadore shows up with Sham and Butchai, revealing his claws. Zoro finally realizes that Klahadore is the wanted pirate Captain Kuro of the Black Hat Pirates. Both men start fighting, but Kuro is simply too fast. Sham knocks Zoro out from behind, and they throw Zoro, Mary, and his swords into a deep well to get rid of the evidence. They don't go after Usopp because they know nobody will believe him. Usopp runs to the village, ringing the bell and screaming that pirates are coming, but he's ignored. He collapses in despair, only to be found by Kobe and Helmeppo, who are now Marine cadets. Kobe believes him. Back at the mansion, Nami finds Luffy unconscious and hides in a cupboard. Kuro and his crew discuss their plan to kill Kaya. Suddenly, Usopp arrives with Kobe and Helmeppo to accuse Kuro. Kobe can't arrest Kuro without evidence, so Kuro hands the unconscious Luffy to them to make them leave. Nami uses this chance to knock Sham out with a frying pan and escape. Midnight strikes, and Kuro announces it's time to kill Kaya. Usopp sneaks into Kaya's bedroom to warn her, but she doesn't believe him. Nami arrives to prove Usopp's story, explaining Kaya isn't actually sick. It was Kuro's poison tea that caused it. Kuro places the house on security lockdown. Usopp, Nami, and Kaya escape through hidden tunnels, hiding in an old abandoned room. Back in the well, Zoro wakes up and begins remembering his childhood. As a trainee at Shimotsuki Village, he was able to defeat all the other students except for the master's daughter, Kuina. A frustrated Zoro challenged Kuina to a duel with real blades, but after a fierce fight, he was defeated. They made a promise that one of them would become the world's greatest swordsman. Tragically, Kuina died shortly after. Her father gave Zoro her blade, which became his third sword. Inspired by this memory, Zoro begins climbing the well until he manages to get out. Nearby, Marines are taking Luffy away. Helmeppo tells Kobe that Garp is only using him. Suddenly, Luffy wakes up, pukes the poison on Helmeppo, and tells Kobe about Kuro. Zoro arrives and knocks out all the officers except Kobe. Zoro and Luffy make their way back to the mansion. Inside, Kuro is destroying the abandoned room. Zoro splits off and easily defeats Sham and Butchai. In the main room, Kaya and Nami try to attack Kuro together, but get captured. Usopp shoots him with his slingshot, but Kuro dodges. He's stopped just in time by Luffy, who starts fighting Kuro. Luffy fails to land a single hit because Kuro is too fast. After Kuro scars Luffy's chest, Luffy gets an idea. He freezes in the middle of the room, closes his eyes, and concentrates on the sound of Kuro's footsteps. This allows him to finally punch him. After exchanging a few more hits, Luffy captures Kuro's wrists and headbutts him, sending him flying through the window. Afterward, Kaya thanks the group by gifting them the ship Luffy wanted, and he names it the Going Merry to honor the dead lawyer, Mary. Luffy invites Usopp to join, but he hesitates. Kaya tells him it's time for her to study medicine, and that he should follow his dreams. Usopp agrees to join the crew. As they sail away, a marine ship attacks. The commander is Vice Admiral Garp, Luffy's grandfather. Garp throws a huge cannonball with his bare hands, but Luffy inflates his body like a balloon and bounces it right back, destroying the marine ship's sail so they can escape into the fog. Nothing says family bonding quite like firing artillery at your grandson. Sometime later, Garp calls the pirate Dracula Mihawk, one of the 7 warlords of the sea. These are pirates too powerful for the Marines to defeat, so they keep them close as allies to do dirty deeds in secret. Garp hires Mihawk to hunt down Luffy. Kobe overhears this and questions Garp's strange morals, but Garp just tells him the world is unfair. Meanwhile, Luffy smells food and finds a seagoing restaurant called the Barady. In the kitchen, a cook named Sanji is making a fancy dish, but the owner, Zeph, reminds him they don't do fancy here and sends him to serve tables. On the main floor, two customers fight, so Sanji quickly stops them using his martial arts kicking moves, which impresses Luffy. Luffy eats a massive amount of food but can't pay, so Zeph orders him to work as a chore boy for a year. Later, Luffy asks Sanji about his dream. Sanji explains he wants to find the All Blue, the mythical ocean where the four seas of the world meet. Luffy invites Sanji to join his crew, but he turns him down because he owes Zeph. Soon, Mihawk also arrives at the restaurant, asking about Luffy. Recognizing him as the world's greatest swordsman, Zoro challenges Mihawk to a duel at dawn. The next morning, the duel starts. Mihawk thinks Zoro is weak and starts fighting with only a tiny dagger, blocking all his attacks. Impressed by Zoro's strong will, Mihawk takes out his actual massive sword, Yoru. He defeats Zoro in seconds, shattering two of his swords, and leaves him gravely wounded. Fascinated by Zoro's will, Mihawk decides not to kill him, telling him to continue training so they can fight again. Zeph and Sanji treat Zoro's wound, using fish skin as a bandage. Luffy then asks Sanji how he met Zeph. Zeph used to be a pirate, and his crew attacked the ship where young Sanji was working. A huge wave sank the ship, leaving Sanji and Zeph stranded on a tiny rock outcropping. Zeph brought 2 bags of food and gave Sanji one, keeping the bigger one. Days passed and Sanji was forced to eat rotten bread. On day 70, Sanji went to take the other bag, only to discover it was full of treasure. Zeph had lied to him to save him. All this time, Zeph had been keeping himself alive by eating his own leg. The duo was saved on day 85. Let that sink in. The man literally ate his own leg to keep a kid alive. That is hardcore. Suddenly, Arlong and his fishman henchmen arrive at the restaurant. They storm in, asking about Luffy. Nami rushes to warn Luffy, but he refuses to leave, wanting to defend the restaurant. Luffy confronts Arlong, who reveals he has Buggy's head in a bag. It turns out Buggy left an ear inside Luffy's hat, so they've been spying on them. Arlong asks for the map. Zeph tries to shoot Arlong, but the bullet does nothing. Zeph is knocked down, and Sanji jumps in to fight the henchman using his black leg style, but he is defeated. Luffy goes after Arlong, but the fishman's body is so strong that Luffy's punches do nothing. Arlong throws Luffy into the sea. Before he can drown, Nami shows up. She reveals she's been working for Arlong all along, proved by an Arlong tattoo on her shoulder. She tells Arlong she has the map. Arlong throws Luffy into the sea and leaves with Nami, but Sanji rescues Luffy. Sanji joins the crew as the official cook, giving Zeph an emotional goodbye. Luffy reveals he's taken Buggy's head from Arlong and forced him to guide them to Arlong's headquarters. They arrive at the Konomi Islands, where Nami grew up. Being here brings back memories of her childhood with her adoptive mother, Belmere, and her adoptive sister, Nijiko. Nami always loved maps, but they couldn't afford books. One day, Nami stole one. Belmere caught her and scolded her. Nami cried, saying she hated being poor and that Belmere wasn't her real mother, earning her a slap. To apologize, Belmere told her how she used to be a marine. After a fierce fight against pirates, she found 2 scared girls, Nami and Nijiko. She knew the right thing to do was to stay home and raise them. But then Arlong and his crew raided the village. Belmere hid the girls in the basement. Arlong demanded tribute. Belmere only paid for 1 person, but Arlong noticed 3 dishes on the table and attacked her. The girls came out to defend their mom. Belmere told Arlong the money would count as the girls' tribute. Since she couldn't pay for herself, Arlong killed her. Back in the present, Nami gives the map to Arlong. She goes to a corrupt marine captain named Nezumi, who collects bribes to ignore Arlong's crimes. After Nezumi leaves, Nami tells Arlong she's finally got enough cash to end their deal. Arlong accepts, but after Nami leaves to retrieve the money, Arlong secretly sends Nezumi after her. Nami goes to her mother's grave and digs out a chest full of all the things she's stolen through the years. Nijiko finds her and calls her out. Nami finally confesses the truth. After their mother's death, Nami went to Arlong. They made a deal. Arlong would sell the village back to her for 100 million berries, and in exchange, Nami became his cartographer. Nijiko finally understands that Nami has been trying to save the village all along, and the sisters reconcile. But they are interrupted by Nezumi, who confiscates Nami's treasure because it's stolen property. Since Nezumi knows exactly the amount of money she has, Nami realizes Arlong sent him to prevent her from liberating the village. She begins running back, falls, and has a massive breakdown, destroying her tattoo while thinking of the time the henchman gave it to her. At that moment, Luffy finds her. He gives her his straw hat, and he and the others promise to help. Meanwhile, Arlong gives a speech to his pirates and encourages them to destroy the village, which soon catches on fire. By the time the group gets there, there's nothing left, but Nijiko shows up with all the villagers, who have learned the truth and want to fight. Luffy asks them to leave everything to them. The crew storms Arlong's headquarters. Usopp battles against a fishman named Chu, who chases him into the forest and attacks him by spitting alcohol at him like projectiles. Usopp shoots his bottle of alcohol with an incendiary projectile, causing it to explode and defeat him. Meanwhile, Zoro and Sanji battle the other henchmen. Sanji reveals his black leg style and easily beats Kurubai, another fishman. Inside, Luffy and Nami find the map, only to be confronted by Arlong. Arlong lands his blade on Luffy's shoulder, but Luffy breaks it. Luffy manages to punch his mouth, but Arlong's teeth instantly grow again. Luffy's punches aren't strong enough to hurt him, so he decides to start destroying the building instead. He uses a technique to drag Arlong through several floors, causing the entire building to collapse. Luffy emerges from the debris, announcing his victory. In the evening, the village has a party to celebrate, but the party is interrupted by the Marines and Garp, who orders them to arrest Luffy's group. Kobe and Helmeppo refuse to follow orders. Garp goes after Luffy himself. A fierce battle ensues, but Luffy can't defeat Garp, who quickly picks him up and tells him to give up. Luffy refuses to abandon his dream and laughs, reminding Garp of Gold Roger's execution. Suddenly, Garp lets go of Luffy and laughs too. It's revealed that Garp has just been testing Luffy to make sure he's ready, so now he can leave knowing his grandson is safe. He tells his men to arrest Arlong's men instead. The next morning, Nami says goodbye to her mother's grave. Nijiko gave her a new tattoo to cover the old one. Kobe visits Luffy and shows him that, upon Nezumi's request, Luffy has been given a bounty of 30 million berries, the highest in the East Blue. The group finally accepts they are a true crew. Before setting sail, the villagers gift them a custom Jolly Roger sail featuring Luffy's straw hat. Luffy smiles, looking at his crew, his ship, and the horizon. The East Blue is conquered, and the Grand Line awaits. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more recaps.